Bon dia, Vacorja. Hi, everyone. Eimear here. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. And this is Fireside Chat 154, where I'm in conversation with a member of the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. So as is customary, I start with a prayer for peace. Gamara Shiakon ar fud na crinne. Gamara Shiakon in our Jaili agus in our Jirha. Ganairi lin len ar cuid garmacha, gamuch buicas jeev, jeha chivdaka is spirit chivdaka. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities, for peace. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. And that those who enjoyed the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the Holy Mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So, let me see where you're all from. West Cornwall, Penzance, Hertfordshire, Italy, Ulster, sunny London. Well, it's now sunny. It's been dull all day. I see a little bit of blue sky. And Wexford, I don't know what, that's usually the sunny southeastern Ireland. I'm not too sure at the moment. Humid. Oh, from under a tree. I thought, Sean, you said up a tree in humid Longford. Humid or under a tree. Wonderful. Ava from Belgium. Sunny Slough. Lots of people at last. Wonderful to hear you all. See you all. Greetings from Chicago. Flintshire. I don't know where that is. I've never heard of it. And Sean, who's normally from Calgary, is so sweltering. He said he's almost lost his brain. He can't be here. Ballina. Sunny here at sunny Crouch End. Wonderful to have you all here. So today we are going to, and I have actually forgotten the place at 9. Swindon, I'm right. Let me introduce you to my guest this evening, Suzanne Baxter. Suzanne, you're so welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me here.
I just got there in time with the Swindon. Katie Ashman from North Wales, the 22nd day of rain. I'm sorry to those who have the heat. My goodness, the 22nd day of rain. Wow. That is wet. So yes, I know other people have been dealing with, fear of wildfires over in the US and perhaps Canada. So we either, for some places, too much rain and others not enough. So let's hope we get just to consider the people who are struggling with weather. So Stephanie said, hot, Utah. Ooh, ouch. Okay, I don't do well in heat. I like some warmth and I like some sunshine, but not too much heat. So, Suzanne, what's it like in Swindon?
It's just starting to warm up. We've had a wet summer and I don't complain because the gardens need it and I'd rather have it cool. And I do feel for these people who've got really hot weather. So I'm okay with it being cooler, but I think we've got a mini heat wave coming, so they say.
Oh, very good. Yes. Yeah. Well, it was 19 degrees here, which that's not bad. But so, and of course in the UK you have it a little bit hotter than we do. So yes. So I was looking at the forecast over there. Saturday is going to be good, but then no, tomorrow is going to be hot. It's going to be raining on Saturday and Sunday, and then fine on Sunday and then raining again on Monday. Anyway. 28 says Julia in London and into the 30s tomorrow. That is hot. Okay. Wow. And Gabriella, who's in Romania, she says it's between 42 and 43 degrees centigrade where she is. That is hot. Okay, that is hot. Okay. And Ferdy, it says it's very sweaty in London right now. Okay. Okay, so what do we do? Anyway, I'm just kind of thinking, in Ireland, what we do, we always talk about the weather, and there's an obsession about it. And what are we doing on this Fireside Chat? Talking about the weather. And then Maria Carmen, who's in Madrid, we have a heat wave here from Africa, and the air is full of red sand from the Sahara. You know, there are times when we get red sand from the Sahara. It doesn't happen very often, but it has. That we'll notice it when the cars are covered with red sand. It's okay. Anyway, so tell us about Swindon and your landscape. I've never been to Swindon, so I know, but there's so much. Even geographically, I'm kind of trying to picture where it is.
So Swindon's in Wiltshire, and Wiltshire has so much ancient history in it. I'm half an hour from Avebury, 40 minutes from Stonehenge, Silbury Hill, Hackpen Hill. So we have so much ancient history around here. It's absolutely beautiful.
Well, I've been to Avebury and Stonehenge and Silbury Hill. And what really I loved there was West Kennet Longbarrow.
Yeah.
I had a magical experience there, and I thought, oh, wow, that was just a wonderful place. So, okay, so now I know where you are-ish. So, okay, Ferdy, it says, Wiltshire is definitely spooky folklore central. I love it there, he says. Do you have any spooky folklore to share?
Spooky. I can't think. I'm sure there is some things. I've done a house clearance before with somebody. They needed to clear a house, and I went and helped them. That was fascinating to notice that the height of the house was different, like 600 years ago, and so you could tell the difference, that it used to be higher than it was, and there were like vortexes. So that was very spooky. And something had to leave, but she did that stuff. I was just there as a second person.
Wow. I haven't seen this film. Julia says, people have made reference to it. Children of the Stones, that was filmed in Avebury. She said it terrified her as a kid, but I've never seen it. Have you seen it?
I haven't. I've heard of it, but I haven't. I think probably back then I wouldn't have watched it because it would have frightened me.
Yeah, now I'd watch it. Yes, I absolutely understand that. So to get back to your landscape, how does it speak to you? To describe it for those who haven't been to the UK, what's it like, your landscape? When you've mentioned the sacred sites. Yes. So what's the landscape actually like?
So for me, Hackpen Hill is probably one of the special places because it's the head of the dragon energy that leads along the old Roman road into Avebury.
Okay.
So that's quite a special place. And what we've done before with our other grove is we've actually honoured the land for the winter solstice, and then walked the pilgrimage to Avebury for winter solstice.
How long does that take you?
About an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then we've had to have lunch then because we were all starving, as you do. But yes, so very special. And then when you get to Avebury, then Swallowhead Springs is one of my favourite places. So it's some stones across an ancient stream. There's a willow tree there, and lots of people put cluties up. And I've got a picture actually. I don't know where it is at the moment, but I've got a picture. I'm sure I've got a picture of some sort of water nymph that I saw when I was there. So that's really special. And then opposite Silbury Hill, I crept up there unofficially. So if anybody asks, I didn't do it.
Yeah, you're not meant to climb, isn't that it?
Sorry?
You're not meant to climb, are you not?
No, I didn't. I flew up.
Okay.
Which was, and
well,
that's
as long as
amazing.
you hovered above, then it's okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
And Gabrielle has a question for you. How does it feel to live in a place with so many sacred sites around? How does that influence you as a person?
I wouldn't like to live. I think it's very different to live like in the village of Avebury. I think the energy would be too much for me. I don't understand how people can live that. I think it takes a certain type of person to live in that energy. Whereas me, I'm going to Avebury tomorrow to meet somebody for lunch. And it's more about being far enough away that I'm not connecting with it all the time, but it's near enough when I want to.
Oh, okay. And it's interesting. Billy Lyons was in the US, and this is he lives 45 minutes from the Snake Mound in the US, and I don't know what state that's in, but I learned about that from what do you call him, Graham Hancock's series. It was on Netflix, Ancient Apocalypse, talking about ancient sites, and he has a number of theories about sophisticated civilizations, etc. And he's not allowed any longer to be on the Snake Mound. But that is a fascinating one, because if this is the same one you're talking about, Billy, the mouth of the snake, there's a bowl, and it faces the rising sun at the summer solstice. And then the curves on the snake's body are aligned, I think, to the equinoxes. It's just fascinating. So you find it, but what about, so is Avebury the closest to you?
Hagpen Hill's nearer than Avebury to me.
That doesn't have the same impact on you,
no,
as Avebury. Okay.
Yeah, but all very special. But also, my main special place, to be honest, is actually a graveyard in Wootton Bassett.
Is that near you?
That's where I lived when I started getting into Druidry. So that's very dear to my heart. There's a cedar tree there that is very dear to my heart. So would you like to hear about that?
Yes, I would, and I bet you our viewers would too.
So it's interesting because in the 90s, I'd lived out of England for 10 years. I was married to a soldier. I came back and we separated. He was a drinker. They would know, so he probably had PTSD. Anyway, so we separated, and I met somebody who smoked cannabis, and I didn't do that as a teenager, and thought, wow, I'm curious. So unfortunately, it didn't do me any good. And first of all, I thought this amazing psychic spiritual experience was starting to happen to me, but it gradually got hold of me. It took over. It was dark. I couldn't control it. I dipped in and out of these two realities. And over a period of 6 months, I became so unwell that I was diagnosed with a psychosis and taken into hospital.
Wow.
And during that time, leading up to that, I was curious about the seasons, the moons, Reiki, chakras, crystals, those kind of things. But after my psychosis, I felt that it was all dark. It was all part of my madness, and I had to get rid of all my books and everything and start again. And so I searched to find somewhere for my spirituality. And I searched in churches. So I searched all the churches in the area that I lived in Wootton Bassett. And I didn't feel what I was looking for in any of those. So then I went further into Swindon, because I wasn't living here then. And I started to look at some of the churches in Swindon, and I visited churches and I went to services. And I was getting quite frustrated because I wasn't finding what was right for me, what I was looking for. And then I walked around Bassett one day, and I walked into the graveyard. There isn't a church in the graveyard in Wootton Bassett, they're separate. And I'd walked into this graveyard, and in front of me was this giant tree. And I went and sat with the tree, and that was my connection. That was where I needed to be. I had an amazing connection with this tree. And after that, if you were ever looking at for me and I wasn't at home, I would be sat with the tree. And that was where I was until I started actually on my bardic course.
Wow. And so what tree was it? What kind of?
It's interesting because I put down on my in my notes for my as a mentor, I've put down it's a Scots pine, but actually I've researched it and it's not. It's a cedar tree.
Okay.
So it's a giant. It must be a few hundred years old. It's giant. It towers above the skyline, and it has these beautiful special cones that drop from it. And it's just a beautiful sentient being.
Wow. So when you're, I mean, that's what an anchor for you. So can you just unpack a little bit? What's that like for you? Sitting beneath that tree, and what was it that grounded you? That these are my words, and I know I don't want to put them in on you. But what was it that tree did for you that none of the other, attempts to join churches or access spirituality in those ways? What was it that
it was connection. It was connection. It was connection to nature. It was connection with no judgment, connection with not having to prove anything, just a total acceptance. Any time I could go there and feel that connection and just sit and be with the tree. And in that time I was recovering from my psychosis and I was still quite anxious. And so it gave me peace. I got peace as well from being with the tree. And I have a special connection with that particular tree, but other trees as well.
That is just a beautiful story. Gabriella says, for a few moments the story sounded like a song. It had melody. And Ange says, this is a kind of related. 34 years ago today, I had a car accident in Wootton Bassett, which changed the direction of my life. I was on my way from Stonehenge to the White Horse at Uffington. And I hope it changed, even though it was an accident, that perhaps in a positive way rather than a negative way. But it's amazing. Interesting, those synchronicities for you. Wootton Bassett is a really important place for you.
Yeah.
Rainbow Rising says, unconditional love of Mother Earth.
So much, yes.
Yeah. And it's interesting, people's connections with trees. Gav says, we have a huge beech tree in the woods near my home in Chesterfield. And I've loved, I think you've said I've lived the tree. I think you've loved the tree since you were younger as a teenager. I'm 52 now, and I find it a beautiful friend. That is so beautiful. But it's interesting that you found that without any direction. It was finding it yourself on that quest. It's beautiful. And what kind of a spiritual path were you on before you became a Druid, before you joined Obod?
Probably not one. I was a wife, a mum, busy looking after bringing children up, and I think for me it was something I had when I was younger, and then it sort of went by the by while I was bringing up my family. And then sort of like as my family got older, then I was starting to look for something again at that point.
So how did you find Obod then?
Well, it's interesting. I was guided to go. I was intuitively guided to go to a talk by Rinpoche at Avebury. And while I was there, again, intuitively, I had to go and speak to these two people that I didn't know. And they actually used to go out into the woods to do ceremony. So they invited me to go out into the woods and do a ceremony with them. So I'd asked my friend if she wanted to come. And I remember going to this first ceremony and saying to my children, if I come back in a body bag, this is where I am. Because it was like I was going out in the woods with these strange people that I didn't know to do a ceremony. Anyway, it was absolutely fine. They were amazing. And we all started working together with the Bardic grade. And the first time that I ever did a journey with this group in their house, it was quite frightening for me because it actually took me back into my psychosis. And so it was very dark. It was very fearful. And when the journey finished, I ran out of the house and I didn't know if I was going to be able to continue my journey with Obod, because it's not safe to have, if I'm having those kind of experiences, it's not safe to be journeying, So I was really confused, frustrated, fearful that particular evening. But that was the last. Sorry, Eimear.
Yeah, because we don't recommend anyone who's experienced psychosis to study the GWERS simply because we're not there, because it's a by distance course. We're not there to help and support people. And yes, the meditations or the practices can, if you have a susceptibility or a vulnerability, can open you up without having someone there to support you and guide you into managing it. So how did you recover? What did you do?
Well, I was quite shocked by it because it had been probably 10, 12 years since I'd experienced anything like that. So I was quite shocked about it. I didn't know who to speak to out of the group because nobody knew about my experiences. And I almost thought, well, was this something one of them was doing? I really was quite confused. So I went home and kind of reflected on the evening. And thought that all I was going to do for the time being was just work with the light body, with grounding myself with the light body and give it some time to heal. And that was the last time that I ever had a psychotic experience in a journey. And after that, I've had amazing journeys and I've been safe and everything's been absolutely fine.
So you're putting it down to focusing on the light body?
That's what helped me, being grounded, having the light body, and focusing on the healing. I guess maybe I was healing myself. I don't know what happened, but actually once I was grounding myself and doing the light body exercise, I never experienced any dark journeys again, because I don't think dark journeys are helpful. I think journeys should be positive, healthy, safe things to do, you know. And I never experienced anything like that again. So I was eternally grateful for that.
I suppose that really highlights the importance of being prepared before you go on, and for anyone to go on deep meditations or journeys, that you have, starting with your light body. That's what we do. Other people have other methods, and also having a starting point, like a doorway to come into and to enter the other world and to come back through. And doing it when you're in the best of health and being really, really careful and mindful. That's a lot of people saying, Suzanne, how brave you are in sharing this with us too. That was so brave of you, Suzanne. And it strikes me how the resources you had at the time to heal yourself, that, okay, you went back into psychosis, but there was something else that got you out of it. And I suppose you had the tools, but you actually went and used them. So often we have tools at our disposal and we forget to use them to do that. So, and then Philippa says, that's interesting that you healed yourself. Brilliant. And nothing ever since.
No, I've not had anything as severe as that since. I did move once and I was very stressed and there was a few strange things going on, and I reflected afterwards and thought maybe I was just doing too much. Because once you have a psychosis, there is a risk that stress levels can bring that back on. And I think I just got really stressed that time, but apart from that, no. But I think that there needs to be hope for people who experience those things, that they can recover from them as well. And I think that OBOD has been part of my ongoing recovery. As learning how to be a druid has continued my recovery from my psychosis.
That is absolutely wonderful. And of course, doing the course is not therapy for anyone who's thinking it might be.
No.
But it can be very therapeutic and supportive you on your path. Nimi says you found the right pathway home. That's lovely.
Yes.
And then Pat says it's a hard thing when you've had a scare to go back and face it again. Absolutely. And but I assume you had the 10-year gap, or you thought you're fine, but it's to ground yourself. And I think with that, it's the grounding aspect of the course that I found really, really amazing and so And so important. But Rebecca says, agreed, Obot has given me a peace that has eluded me everywhere else. Yeah.
And I do think for me, it's a journey of self-development as you connect with the different aspects and the different courses. It's an amazing journey of you're developing yourself all the time as you connect with nature and with the elements. So yeah.
Sean says that's true strength. And it is indeed. I agree with you, Sean. It's wonderful. Wow. So, we mentioned when we were just having a little thing, you've had a magical experience, or you want to talk about magical experiences?
Gosh, yes. Yeah. So we have a grove. I'm with the Sunwise Grove, and we have a special place. It's an ironic name for a village. It's called Slaughterford.
Oh my goodness, go on.
Anyway, but it's ancient woodland, and we have a place there which is beautiful. There's 7 springs, and our actual, where we have our grove, there is it's an island. The springs come round and divide that island from the mainland, so it's a very special place to be. And on that land as well, there's a yurt, and we have workshops there sometimes. And we'd Sarah, who is the daughter of the owner of the land, she'd organised this workshop for us, and we were to go out and find a tree to connect with. And I very much felt myself going through this doorway from one realm to another. It's quite dappled light, so there wasn't a lot of light in this woodland. And I walked over to, I didn't know at the time because there wasn't many leaves on it. It was an old apple tree. But I don't know about other people's magical experiences, but it was like I was seeing a tree for the first time. I was totally in awe as I touched the moss that was on the wrinkled branches of this tree. And the tears just poured down my face because of the awe I was feeling of how amazing and beautiful this being was before me. So I don't know if other people would like to share anything that they've experienced, where they've had a real magical connection with something.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of a delay. People might share in a few moments. You have poetry.
I do.
Do you want to share why maybe people might come up and share their experiences? But if you you have.
Okay. Yeah, so interesting. This is a bit of a magical poem. I wrote this when I was on the Bardic course, so it's quite a long time ago. And it's a poem called Words.
Okay.
So we spell words. We spell spells. Spelling is the magic of words. Words are the magic of spells. Which spell? This spell? No, that spell. What about the spell of making? Those words make a spell. The spell of making shows the power of words. Used time and time again over hundreds of years, the words of a spell used so many times becomes an egregore. A great word for words. A great word for spells. A great word for spelling. Binding words, binding spells. In wedlock, I do. Those words, do you remember those words? That vow, the spell that binds 2 people together till death do us part. Sadly, we parted. But was that spell released? Does divorce annul? Does divorce alone annul those words, that vow? Or is it at the point of death when that vow is broken? Words to celebrate. Congratulations. Well done. Happy birthday. Make a wish. That spell. And blow the candles out. If the wish has intent and the intent is clear and the meaning is felt, the fire is ignited and the wish is out there. So spell it out and know this. Words have their own energy and wisdom when you use the magic of words.
Oh, that is just so, so beautiful. Wow. Lovely. And of course, you're a very good reader of your poetry as well.
Thank you.
So you animate the words, and it's just so, so beautiful. So some sharing of lots of lovely responses to the poem as well. Pat, I have an exercise I do to try to open myself to that new sight experience, seeing the world like for the first time. I do it a lot and it works pretty rarely, but it's wonderful when it does. Yeah. I think that's not unusual, Pat. It's not that everyday experience, but that. Gabriella, I can share that the entire Druidic journey so far has been filled with magical experiences. I can relate to seeing things as if for the first time, especially trees. That is a beautiful, when anyone, or you're listening to a piece of music, seeing things for the first time. And of course, T.S. Eliot has that poem, you know, that about, I haven't got the quote, somebody will have it, you know, where it's coming back to the same place, but knowing it for the first time. That is just beautiful. And Anne says, lovely to be reminded about the way words have power. Thank you for sharing this is from Howlin' Willie. That's a great name. Thank you for sharing your story, Suzanne. Having lived many years in Sin City as a sort myself, King's Cross area, Sydney. I can relate, and it's a blessing to share this time with you. Dark energy moves about, but it need not be part of one's future. Nature, the great here. Lovely. Lots of lovely comments. Under your spell, Suzanne. That's from Carmen. Brilliant. Love your presentation. I feel you cast a spell of teaching over us. Thank you. It's from Amaro. Thank you. So beautiful. Can we please get the poetry? Is this published anywhere?
No, it isn't. Did
you tell me you had a poem that was in Touchstone?
That poem was in Touchstone. Yes.
Do you know when?
Oh gosh. Now you're asking. Maybe 2014, something like that.
Okay, well, you can look up. I know that it's on the Hearth, the back issues of Touchstone are there. So look up 2014. Brilliant. Rebecca says, many native peoples believe that words have great power and speak them as if to make them real. And Ricky says, words do have power. Sometimes the best 2-letter spell is no. Brilliant. And Rebecca says, to speak the names of the dead or to call them up again. And I know in many, you know, that you're never truly dead as long as you're spoken of and remembered. Yeah, and Gabriella says, if you do publish, please do audios of the poems. You read them so beautifully. Your heart energy comes across fully. That is true.
Thank you.
Duncan, thank you. Here's the quote from T.S. Eliot. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. I just love that quotation. Wish I could keep it in my head. Thank you, Duncan. Beautiful. That's just wonderful. So, what do you do for a living? Just because I think this is really interesting.
So, I think my illness created a passion to work with people with mental health conditions. So I've actually worked in a mental health charity for over 20 years now. And doing a variety of jobs. I used to support people on the ward, challenging the psychiatrists, psychologists. I've managed a respite house. And for the last 8 years, which has changed this year, but for the last 8 years, I've been a trainer and facilitator. And that's actually been, you know, in mental health and wellbeing, and has been global, so international as well. And so it's fascinating to, like, for example, we think of seasonal affective disorder affecting people who are in the climates where it's dull and grey. But actually then someone from the Philippines says about when they've got 100% humidity and how that impacts people. And you start to hear about the different impacts around the globe. So it's been a journey of learning for me as I've done the training and shared the facilitation with people as well.
Wow, that is interesting, because usually, Pat's not at all biased here. She said, "Yay, all the best people are trainers." She's one. But just a comment from Anne. I'm going to put it up because it's a bit long. It's so helpful to be back with you all after so long and with such an affirmative discussion. Having moved provinces after 35 years, I was also stressed and very dislocated for a while. Getting back on track now. Good to hear that, Anne. The great old trees are helping here too, and I'm finally able to set up an altar again. Grateful for all the good reminders about regrounding and balance. Thank you, and welcome back. Yeah, moving house is one of the, it scores high on the stressful life events, you know, that it's up there. Even if it's what you want to do, it still is stressful. Thank you, Oswald. He said a phenomenal chat. Thank you. Brilliant. So Ricky said, oh, this is interesting. I know I had one patient with reverse seasonal affective disorder. So he was UK based and felt low in so-called good weather.
Yeah.
I do know people who find heat and sunlight really distressing.
Yes.
So it's just that we always think that it's got to do with light, but it's not just light.
No.
Or it can be too much light or not enough light. But then you're talking about humidity. Or I know people who live in the areas where you have the Mistral, that wind in France that just blows incessantly for, I don't know, 3 days a week. And that can drive people absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Very much. Yes. So, sorry, are you still reading, Eimear?
No.
I was just going to say that I kind of did my first talk for them at the summer gathering this year around the art of listening.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I tend to do research for a talk, and then after the talk, it takes me on another journey somewhere else. So it was interesting to think, because we think about our 5 senses.
Yeah.
But actually, there is a lot more research going on now that there are maybe 20 senses, over 20 senses. So anything that impacts outside and we connect with it inside, we can say that's a sense or a sensitivity. Yeah. And then I started to research Dr. Cohen. So Dr. Cohen says there's 53 senses. And he also says that we're put here on earth to use our senses. And if we're indoors all day and we're not, then our senses aren't working as they should be. And that's when they can cause problems and insensitivities for us. So it's thinking about, if anyone wants to do some research, I don't know if I've got something that I probably can do a link if people are interested. But I found it fascinating to think about.
What's the person's name?
His name's Dr. Cohen. It says it's 54 Natural Senses and Sensitivities by Dr. M. Cohen.
54 natural
senses and sensitivities.
What's his initial? Dr. What Cohen?
M for mother, but his name is not mother. Is something.
I get you. Yeah. Interesting. Carmen says, I had a problem with the wind years ago and had acupuncture done on my neck, and it worked.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So even if we think about colours, I'm sure everyone's got colours they like and colours they don't like. And they can go to a room and it's decorated a particular colour and they're either happy with it or they're not. So, even colours around us can impact how we are. So I just found it fascinating to start thinking about more than the 5 senses. If anybody wants to.
Interesting, you're talking about color. I used to do tango, and there was a woman in my class who has color sensitivity. She can, so it's not, I like that color, I don't like that color. She can go into a room, and supposing it's painted green, and there's a slight variation because they ran out of paint and got another tin, and it's not, she'll know if it's not matched. You're talking about the subtlest of differences she can pick up, and it jars with her, but she can know, no, that's not right. And I was really fascinated with that, picking up. I mean, she's incredibly sensitive to it. So, Pat Booker has BAD, beige affective disorder, ever since she worked in a beige office. Yes, and Gabrielle has that ability as well. Now, in anthroposophy, Steiner says we have 12 senses. Okay. Ricky, spoilers, there was a Star Trek related franchise where some non-corporeal aliens had inhabited bodies to celebrate the feast of the senses, including a lost sense and an inquiry that turned out to be the sense of fear. Not too sure I understand that, but it's interesting. Okay, Just Jane has a question. I'll come to that. But Nimi says, my mother worked in an infant school for 30 years. She said there were way more cut knees and bumped heads when it was windy. Now, I don't think it was because the wind was knocking the kids over, but that's an Just Jane, what areas of the studies are not suggested for people susceptible to psychosis? I'm interested, but have bipolar, so I've always been careful. It's like I think you're recommended, if you're vulnerable, that you don't join the course, simply because your mentor is by distance. It's a distance course, so it's not. And if that is a general rule, but you would need to be. So I think you'd need to. This is not the place to discuss it. So I suppose if you contact the office, Jane, in contact the office, or contact me, eimear@druidry.org. This is interesting. Oswald says, green, verde, verdad, truth. Any comments? Talking about truth spelling. I don't know.
No.
And then Rebecca, hearing is incredibly sensitive to most of us with mental disorders, I think. That and smell. And then Ricky, in response to his other, I think it's because a sense of fear often has physical stimuli, even without the thing feared being present. So it becomes a sort of sense. Yeah, I suppose you're right. And I mean, I suppose sound and smell. Well, flashing lights can also. I suppose there's so many. Tactile. The sense of touch can be as well. So,
and I think with all the neurodivergences that are coming in as well, we talk to people about how if they're anxious about going out, we talk about which of the senses are impacted by them going out. How can they manage that? So I think we're becoming more aware of our sense and our sensitivities. Definitely.
Okay.
Interesting.
So Carmen says, my son has suffered from psychosis, and the tea with the druids and the wheel of the ear has helped him no end. He recently came off the meds, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. That's lovely. That's great, Carmen.
That's amazing.
It's interesting what triggered yours. I have two stepsons whose mental health has been triggered by taking substances in their teens, and I've one son who has never recovered. So it's. But then there was a sensitivity in the family anyway. If there's a sensitivity, it can make it worse. And then there's other siblings have taken stuff with no problems. So
there was some research done around that, and they said that they were researching young guys from about 18 to 25, and they found that if they'd learned life skills and they managed things and were able to deal with conflict, etc., and let it go, they had less risk. But if they weren't taught life skills, so they held on to everything that happened to them as they grew into manhood, they had more risk of developing psychosis. And I do think that mine was a catalyst for, as a child, everything got brushed under the carpet in my house. My mum and dad would argue. My dad would go down the garden and have a cigarette and come back, and it was all okay. So I was never taught to manage conflict and deal with issues, you know. So I think it was a catalyst for me. Maybe it is for other people. I can't say.
You know, it's lovely to be able to, and we're coming to the end of our chat, and we'll move over to the hearth now. But it's great to be able to look at it as a catalyst. I see that as something positive for you, or you're looking at that an awakening, albeit not a very pleasant one or enjoyable one. And the fact that you've been able to come through that and got the help you need and able to find it through nature. So just so beautiful. So I think maybe that just brings us to an end. Yes, well done. The nice comments. So I'll allow you say goodbye to everybody. And for those members who are on the hearth, just come over. We'll see you in a few minutes. Do you want to say anything just before we
just thank you. It's been lovely to hear what people are saying. Yes. So thank you very much for everything that everybody's shared with us tonight.
So I look forward to seeing you all next week, and enjoy the rest of your day or night or morning, whatever it is, or if you're watching a recording of this chat. And again, special thanks to Suzanne, my guest, for joining me this evening. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. And in the meantime, may you get the weather you need to be the water for your garden if you need it, or a bit of coolness. And may your nights be cool enough so that you get some sleep. I'm just looking at the comments and how people are affected by weather. So in the meantime, be well and slán go fóill.